We have a winner. Tammy Duckworth claims victory tonight, winning the Democratic primary nomination for Illinois State Senate. Later, College of DuPage students share their thoughts on this election season. And joining us in the studio to discuss both the presidential and local primaries is adjunct instructor Bill Enright of the Political Science Department. All that and much more on this special edition of Courier TV News. Hi, and thanks for joining us. I'm Alex Bruzek, and welcome to Courier TV News Primary Election Coverage 2016. We want to welcome back Bill Enright, who has been providing us with up-to-date polling results all night long. So far tonight, we've had 5 primaries in Illinois, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, and of course, one of the surprises tonight, Florida, where Trump actually crushed Rubio in his home state. Trump actually had 45% of the vote to Marco Rubio's 28%. So why is that kind of a surprise?
Well, of course, Rubio being from Florida, you would have expected that he would have done better in Florida, his home state. But Trump has been pretty much on a roll, and so somehow or another was able to convince voters that he's the one.
And so with Rubio, he vacated his Senate seat. So now he's kind of out of a job. What role do you see him playing in the future?
Well, one place I could see him going is a possible vice presidential candidate. He's young. He's from Florida. Florida's such an important state when you get to the Electoral College that maybe they'd be looking at him.
Right. And Trump has a pretty strong stance, as everyone knows, on immigration. Do you think having Rubio as his running mate might help him in that area?
Yeah, it could balance the ticket a little bit because Rubio's been a little bit less aggressive on immigration, and so it might be able to help him with that, certainly with the Hispanics. And I know that Trump is probably going to need help with the Hispanics in the general election.
Absolutely. And it's kind of interesting, just a month or so, quite a bit of momentum going, and it kind of seems once he got Mitt Romney behind him, he kind of lost a little bit of that. Do you think Mitt Romney was actually detrimental to his campaign?
Yeah, you never know how Trump is going to spin something, but maybe he did talk everybody into thinking that Rubio was a problem because of what happened with Romney in 2012. So it might have been something like that, and the way that Donald Trump's been able to spin things, he may have convinced people out of that.
It's certainly been an interesting tonight nationwide in these primaries, but let's go ahead, let's focus on what's going on here in Illinois. Very interesting Senate race tonight. Mark Kirk, the incumbent, he won his Republican nomination with Tammy Duckworth winning the Democratic side. Any surprises there?
You know, not any real surprises there because they were both expected to win. Kirk being the incumbent, you would expect that. Tammy Duckworth has pretty good name recognition in the area, and so I'm not surprised that Duckworth was able to take that seat also, take that nomination also.
Okay, and with Tammy Duckworth, she obviously, she's leaving her seat in the congressional district, the 8th congressional district. There were 3 contenders there. It looks like Raja Krishnamurthy is actually going to win it there. We expected that, right?
Yeah, good job on pronouncing his name. Yeah, Raja had pretty good money behind him also, was able to run a lot of television commercials. The name recognition is big in those primaries.
Absolutely. And on the Republican side of that one, DeCiani, he ran unopposed, so he's going to be there. What do you think we have to look forward to in November in that race?
Well, the nice thing for DeCiani is he didn't have to spend any money in the primaries. Now, when we get to the general election, that seat was kind of carved out for Duckworth a couple of years ago when they did the redistricting. But there's still a lot of Republicans in that district, and DeCiani is maybe not as conservative as Joe Walsh was, who Duckworth took the seat from. So I could see that being a pretty close race.
There's definitely a lot of interesting things going on there, but there's also kind of less talked about races here in Illinois. What can you tell us about the DuPage County Board race and some other races?
Yeah, well, in District 4, Tim Elliott looks like he's going to win over Michelle Moore, and that was a pretty contentious race. There was a lot of mailers coming out and a lot of negative mail in that race, and so it was more contentious than you would normally expect in a county board race. But it looks like Tim Elliott's going to win that one. In the Forest Preserve District, it looks like Mary Lou Worley's going to hold on to her seat, running against Schultz again, who she'd run against 4 years ago in the first place. And then in District 2 in the county board, Blast looks like he's going to get the nomination for the Republicans.
Okay. And briefly going back to that Senate race, why is it so important between, this balance between the Republicans and the Democrats with Tammy Duckworth kind of looking like she might take it from Kirk?
Well, of course, it's 54 to 46 right now, Republicans over Democrats in the U.S. Senate. Every seat counts, and they're going to spend big money to try to take that seat. Illinois is a seat that normally you would expect a Democrat would do well with, and so I wouldn't be surprised if that's a very, very close race, and they're going to spend a lot of money, maybe $100 million on that race.
Wow. Well, the March primary is not the only presidential election this year. Nick Petrillo introduces us to the candidates running for the college's Student Leadership Council.
Make sure your voice is heard here at the College DuPage by voting in this year's Student Leadership Council elections. Online elections are taking place now through Wednesday, March 16th. Everyone enrolled in classes this semester are able to vote for student trustee, student body president, and student body vice president, who take part in the college decision-making process and are called on by the administration to represent the students. It's easy to vote. Simply log on to chaplife.cod.edu and put in your MyAccess username and password, and then you're ready to vote. But the biggest issue in this year's election might be a lack of student interest. Last year, student election turnout was very low. Out of the almost 30,000 eligible voters, only 338 voted.
We have a great number of candidates, and they are all high-quality candidates. So my expectation is, with those kind of choices to be made, that we're going to see a pretty high turnout for the elections.
Last week, voters had a chance to meet the candidates and learn about their positions at a candidate forum. All 9 candidates shared their platform statements and took part in a question and answer session asked by the students. Current student trustee GLORIA ROARK, student body president Joe Stahl, and student body vice president Miguel Hernandez are not running again for re-election because they have completed their studies here at COD. But these current members of the SLC are encouraging all COD students to get out and vote.
So that the students have an accurate representation of who they feel best represents them. So obviously the more people that get out and vote, the louder the student voice that is heard. I think the better this college and the better the students need to be fit.
Make sure to cast your vote and get your voice heard. And for more information about the candidates and elections, contact the Office of Student Life at 630-942-2243. And for CNTV News, this is Nick Petrillo.
Honestly,
As you can see, election season is in full swing from the bottom up. So let's go back to the big primaries tonight, the national primaries. Let's start here in Illinois. Trump's been called as the winner here. He actually, it was a closer race than a lot of people thought. He actually had 39.5% of the vote, I believe, right now. Why was that closer than we thought?
Well, certainly it was still a 4-person race. I think Kasich is the one who really came from behind in that. And with Kasich, the important thing is that he's more of a moderate, and I think a lot of Illinois voters are more moderate. I know out here in DuPage, I saw some returns, and it looked like Kasich was doing awfully well out in DuPage.
And on the Democratic side, I don't think it's been called yet, but right now it looks like Clinton has a slight edge on Sanders, which is actually quite a bit of surprise, as this is her home territory, right?
Yeah, right. She was born in Chicago, and so you would have expected that she would have really taken the state. But Sanders has a lot of young people behind him. There's kind of a lot of excitement behind his race. I don't know how many young people got out to vote, but probably in this race they did. It looks like there was a huge voter turnout in this race.
Absolutely. And why do you think those numbers are up this year?
Well, there's just more excitement. Trump has brought a lot of excitement to the race. Sanders has brought a lot of excitement to the race. And so people who normally maybe wouldn't be interested in voting are coming out and getting involved.
That's fantastic, really. Let's talk about some of the other big races tonight. Ohio, which was one state that Trump hasn't won so far tonight that's been officially called. Kasich won that there. He's obviously the governor there. But really, Trump was pretty close there. He only lost by about 10% there. So what can we say about the Ohio race?
Yeah, well, since it's winner takes all there, Kasich does get all the delegates. But you're right. Trump got a second place. He's always either first or second place, and so he's always right up there. You can't say that about any other candidates right now. Even Cruz is never right up there in second place or first place. And so Trump really looks like he's got a commanding lead going right now.
And we talked a little bit about potential running mates for vice president earlier with Rubio. Obviously, you said that Ohio's super important when it comes to the elections later in November. What do you think about Kasich's chance of
Yeah, right.
getting that?
Ohio's just as important as Florida usually, and so I would expect that Kasich could be one of the contenders too. Rubio's younger, and so it might balance out the ticket a little bit to have a younger person on the ballot, but still Ohio's very important, and Rubio said a lot of things that Kasich didn't say about Trump.
Absolutely. And it's overall, it's been a big night for Trump and Clinton. Talking about North Carolina, Trump won big there. Clinton also, she didn't win with, overwhelming numbers, but she also took that one as well. What do you think that means going forward?
Well, certainly you would have expected that Cruz would have done better in North Carolina and maybe carried North Carolina. If he wants to get the Republican nomination, he's got to get those more conservative states, and he wasn't able to get North Carolina. And so it looks like he's still close in Missouri. Maybe that will turn around. With Clinton in North Carolina, she's really been carrying the African-American vote. And so, again, she's carried the African-American vote. Again, I'm sure in North Carolina, I haven't seen the final numbers on that, but I'm sure it's the African-American vote that put her over the top in North Carolina.
Okay. And then there's still one state that's kind of up in the air still, really on both sides, which is the only one like that, and that's Missouri. Right now, it looks like Sanders is ahead of Clinton, but I mean, by 1 or 2 percentage points right now. As far as the Republican side, it actually looks like Cruz might win that one, but Trump's looks like he's actually catching up. How important is that state?
Yeah, of course, it looks like it's going to be awfully close as far as the delegate count goes, and so they'll be even with the delegate count, Cruz and Trump and Sanders and Clinton, but you still want to win the state. You can still say that you won the state. And again, Trump looks like he's going to be first or second in that state, and he's the only one who can say he's been first and second in just about all of these elections. And so it looks like it's going to be an awfully good night for Trump, and with Clinton either winning Missouri or very close to Missouri, looks like it's going to be an awfully big night for her too.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting in Missouri. You would think in the St. Louis, Kansas City, and then the college towns like Columbia, you would see Sanders winning those, but it looks like from what we're seeing, actually Clinton took those. So it's kind of surprising.
Yeah, and again, there's certainly a lot of Democrats in college towns, and the Democrats may be still coalescing towards Clinton. We're not exactly sure where all those numbers came from, but it may have had something to do with what was going on with the with the turnout of faculty and others that are living in those towns.
Okay, and so we can't call it yet. We can't say that these are going to be the nominations, but it looks like it's going to be Trump versus Clinton come November. What can you say about that race? Who do you think is going to take it?
Well, first of all, you've got to take a look at all the differences between them. Trump wants to build a wall. Clinton is more in favor, it sounds like, of more free trade. Trump wants to put in all these tariffs, or at least renegotiate tariffs with other governments. Trump is very in favor of really building up the military. I think Clinton would probably stay the status quo with a lot of things that are going on right now. Economic policy, Clinton still probably status quo with what's going on with the Obama administration. Trump is talking about a flat tax, cutting taxes for everybody. And so those things are going to be important. And we also have to see what happens with the economy between now and then. What happens with foreign policy between now and then? What happens with Syria and the refugees? And so all those things are going to be playing out before that election. I would expect it would still be an awfully close election.
Absolutely. There's so much to pay attention to until we get up to November. It'll definitely be interesting. We've actually had teams all over Chicago tonight. We have team coverage, local and national elections. Here's a look at your election 2016 roundup.
It was a victorious night for Congresswoman Tammy Duckworth, who clinched the Democratic senatorial primary nomination with ease, defeating businesswoman Andrea Zopp and State Senator Napoleon Harris. I'm here in downtown Chicago for Representative Duckworth's campaign party, and things are starting to really heat up in the Democratic senatorial campaign.
We're here at Mark Kirk's victory party, where we just saw the senator take the stage. Supporters are excited to celebrate the senator's victory over conservative businessman and challenger James Martin.
Well, I'm not a bookie or anything like that. I don't know what the odds makers are giving him, but I think he's going to be rewarded based on his prior performance.
While supporters were happy with the outcome, Kirk's victory was no surprise.
I'm a big fan of Senator Kirk's policies. He has shown to be an independent leader, which, in the Senate and Congress today, many members tend to be partisan-like, and he has shown that you don't always have to vote with party lines.
With Tammy Duckworth running for the Senate, this leaves our 8th congressional seat up for grabs. 3 Democrats ran a tough race tonight to receive the primary nomination. Schaumburg resident and businessman Rajna Krishnamurti won the primary nomination on a platform that includes protecting Social Security, Medicare, passing common sense gun laws, and addressing the threat of climate change.
He cares about all people, middle class, disadvantaged. He goes out of his way to make sure that people are really taken care of and, fighting for those who can't fight for themselves.
So once again, thank you for being here, Bill. Certainly been an interesting night, both here in Illinois and nationwide. Any final thoughts on what's definitely going to be an interesting election season?
Well, thanks for having me, and this is a great facility. You guys are great. This student program is great. But one thing that I think is going to be interesting is what happens with the convention with the Republicans. If Trump doesn't have enough delegates, are they going to have a brokered convention? Secondly, if Trump does get the nomination and Clinton gets the nomination, or even Sanders gets the nomination, I can't wait to see those debates in the fall. There are going to be a lot of fireworks in those.
All right, thank you so much. This has been your election update. Thank you for choosing Courier TV News for your election coverage this evening. We now leave you with a segment we like to call Chap Chat. We ask COD students who they think the next president of the United States will be.
Honestly, I'm thinking either it'll be Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton.
I'm not really a political analyst, but I'm willing to guess Bernie, considering he has a lot of support currently.
It's a toss-up between either Bernie or Trump.
Well, I hope it's going to be Bernie, but I'm honestly not sure. I don't know.
Hopefully it's Bernie, but I Hillary might take it,
Hillary is in the lead, so she might have a chance, but I don't think any of the Republicans really stand a chance. So
I think Donald Trump will win because Hillary is terrible at playing mind games. So Trump will definitely walk all over her. However, if Bernie gets it, that's going to be very interesting. And